LaFaive is the Morey Fiscal Policy Initiative Director at the Mackinac Center for Public Policy. Joins us this morning via Skype. Mr. LaFaive, what is your take on the situation in Detroit? And as our other guest says, will the pensioners have to take a haircut?
In all likelihood, it will be a crew cut. The federal judge is going to decide soon whether or not the city can actually go into bankruptcy, whether it actually needs to be, or whether or not the Chapter 9 petition should be dismissed. I think he'll accept it. And when that happens, we might see haircuts along the lines of what Kevin Orr was offering creditors to begin with, which was a little more than 10 cents on the dollar.
Are there other cities in Michigan and other big ones around the country who are facing the same prospect?
Not like Detroit, no, but we have had emergency managers placed into other cities like Pontiac to help reform the city's finances to avoid bankruptcy. In fact, the Manhattan Institute has named Michigan's emergency manager law the best among these types of reform laws in the nation.
What is your take on how significant it actually is around the country? What should people be looking or perhaps bracing for?
Well, from 2010 through now, we've had over 30 bankruptcies in municipalities across the country. I think it's going to be an uptick, but like your guest says, I don't think it's going to be hundreds of them. There'll be dozens and dozens, but various emergency manager laws around the country might help mitigate against actual Chapter 9 filings.
What about the question of assets? We've read about city assets, folks considering selling off assets to make up the money. How does that process work? Who makes the decisions, and does it really make a significant difference?
Well, your earlier caller talked about having assets repossessed if you don't make payments on your trailer or car. This is how it's going to happen in Detroit. The emergency manager is still in power in Detroit, even in the Chapter 9 bankruptcy, and he has the power to sell assets. That could mean selling Belle Isle, the 950-acre island in the city's or in the Detroit River, owned by the city. It could mean selling DIA collections. The Detroit Institute of Arts has Picasso and Van Goghs that creditors themselves have been pointing to and demanding be sold to help compensate them for their loans. It works like any other asset sale put up by cities who are not in bankruptcy. They simply put out an invitation to bid, receive the bids, and strike the deal. There will be many lawsuits if the city manager tries to sell the city's art collection and probably Belle Isle as well. But other assets people don't know about may go rather quietly. The old Tiger stage site, for instance, it could be sold. The water department could be sold off to a private for-profit utility. We estimated in 2000 that was worth about $2 billion.
What other observations do you have on Detroit itself and this process of bankruptcy and conditions around the country?
I think it needs to be done. Even if you adopted all of the ideas that I presented to the city back in 2000 for reform, today it still wouldn't be enough to make payments to creditors and make sure pensioners got all the money that they were promised. So I think that the decision Kevin Orr made to move towards a Chapter 9 filing and start the process was a sound one. He simply had no other choice in light of his inability to contract out all the services in the city, sell off assets, and still make the payments that are necessary to keep the city afloat.
Michael LaFaive is with the Morey Fiscal Policy Initiative. He's director there at the Mackinac Center for Public Policy. Thanks a lot for your time this morning.
Thank you for having me.